I think you should
religiously.
but
Linda.
what's going on? Fire? There's more than that.
I know. Yeah, okay.
When are you doing it?
Yeah, I'll let him introduce.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds.
Yes.
Yeah, move it right to the front end. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Let's wait for the light to get back. Oh, I guess I should get myself ready. Right the camera. That's great.
No, oh, no, they just said they're operated by chance. It's just so we don't have to look up there.
Okay. Call a meeting to order. Our first item on our agenda for a regular council meeting on April 15th is public hearings for bylaw 1509, Wildflower Ranch Phase 2. Purpose of the bylaw is Schedule A, the land use district map in the land use bylaw 1411, is amended by changing the land use designation to a portion of Block 2, Plan 851-1176, and a portion of the southwest quarter section of 15, Township 24, Range 25, west of the 4th Meridian, from Agricultural General District to R1N, Single Detached Residential Narrow Lot District R2X, Medium Density Attached Housing District, and P1, Public Service District, as shown in Schedule A. Can we have confirmation of the notices from the Development Officer, please? I don't know. I would assume it's
On?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
This public hearing was deferred till today based on the initial application that was submitted for R2X and R1N. And it was advertised, re-advertised on May 1st, 2015.
Did you want to make a motion?
Uh,
Or ask a question? Councilor Sullivan?
Sure. I would, am I to understand correctly that there's been an application to amend the request for a change in the land use bylaw?
That's correct. As pointed out in the highlighted region of my report on page 2 of the 9, this is the one with the purple cover, there's been 3 key things that have happened since the last public hearing. We received 5 letters, including 1 letter that represented 2 parties. We received an email dated April 30th, 2015, and confirmed a request that the application be amended to change the R2X lands to R2 to address residents' concerns. And we've amended the bylaw to reflect that. And then there was another detail as outlined in item 3 that technically some of these lands were zoned in 2010, and this was a bylaw that got tied in with the area structure plan and we missed it. So there is some new stuff happening.
So, Your Worship, with that in mind, I mean, I'm really not here to try to keep putting this matter over, but I think it's really important for us to hear the public and the comments and concerns that the public have. And as it stands at this moment, the vast majority of responses and concerns that we've had pertain to the change in the bylaw to R2X, which is no longer the case. And I think it's only fair for us to allow everyone who's raised concerns to have some time to respond to the change in the proposed bylaw, which is from to R2. So I don't feel that I could properly hear this matter today because of the fact that there's been a significant change in the request by the applicant. So I would be making a motion to recess this issue until I would suggest proper notification to the public is given in regards to the change in the bylaw.
So the motion on the floor is to recess until public receive notification of the change in the bylaw from R2X to R2. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Councilor Granger.
I respect the motion. I'm just going to the comment you made. The comment you made that was something. There was a zoning in place prior to, and you lost the bylaw, or I misplaced it, or
The way this was originally presented was that this was being changed from agriculture to R1N and R2X. It's really, yeah, that's incorrect, and we've amended that information in this document.
and were these was the public aware of that prior to, or?
No, we discovered this within the last week or so as we dug into this matter deeper.
Thank you.
Councilor Gill.
Thank you, Your Worship. I echo Councillor Sobel's comments in that there's so many things here. We have so many residents who were prepared and wrote letters in response to the change to R2X, and now the developers or the developer has changed it to R2, and we don't know if the public in that area has had a chance, well, we know they haven't had a chance to respond to how they feel about it being changed to R2. So I think they have to be given that opportunity too, to be heard on whether how they feel or if they want to send in letters or concerns regarding a change to R2. So I'm understanding exactly what Councillor Sobel's saying.
Deputy Mayor Wolfman.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a councillor, I'm not comfortable proceeding with this tonight. I spent a couple hours going over this afternoon, and I was just about to ask the question here just at the time Councillor Sobel did. I thought we were proceeding with R2X, and I'm not ready for this tonight.
Could I confer?
Yes, please.
Your Worship, may I make a suggestion?
Please.
Perhaps it would be cleaner if this bylaw were defeated and we start afresh with a new bylaw and a new public hearing process. Would that?
We have a motion on the floor. With that in mind,
The thing is, I was looking for procedure after, and that is the cleanest, and I do like that concept better. That this would have to close the hearing and then bring this up in regular council. So I would withdraw my motion, Your Worship.
do we need to have a vote on the motion being withdrawn? Okay, motion is withdrawn. So,
And I would further motion that this public hearing be closed.
we have a motion to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried.
I don't like any of it, but anyway.
I think this is the cleanest.
So, Municipal Clerk, please.
Your Worship, may I suggest that we bring the bylaw forward on the agenda to deal with the matter
Right now.
immediately? Yes.
Sure. So, do we need to amend the agenda before we do that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go through. Additions and deletions for the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, wherever you wish to put it, I have a motion I'd like to bring forward with regards to council for deliberation.
Under new business 9.1. Councillor. Any other amendments we need to bring forward? Oh, administration, please. Okay, good, thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Your Worship, I would move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
We have to bring forward the
I'm sorry.
land use bylaw under 7.12. I guess it would be 5.1 to change that. If we're going to bring it forward right away. Where do we put this?
Your
Forward?
Worship, you could put it under 4.2.
4.2? Okay. So amend the agenda to bring 7.1 up to 4.2.
I so move.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Additions or deletions. And okay, 4.2 is land use bylaw amendment 1509. And the bylaw is being brought forward by Planning and Development. And I will take second reading of the bylaw.
Your Worship, I move that council give a second reading to land use bylaw amendment bylaw number 15-09 as amended.
Thank you. Any discussion?
If I may, Your Worship, all these folks are here, and I think maybe I'd like someone's opinion of who is going to be the spokesperson, if that, so that it's clear in everybody's head. What we're doing is going from R2X to R2, or is it R2?
No, R2X to R2.
R2, yeah. Is there any spokesperson that would like to give me an idea that they understand what's happening?
And what will be happening is the R2X is going to be presented. We will be voting on it, and if it is defeated, then the bylaw will come back as a for R2, my understanding.
Correct.
Yes. Go through the whole procedure again. So, any further discussion in regards to that? We have second reading on the floor. All in favor? Oh. Second reading is defeated. Opposed? There we go. Sorry. It got defeated in regards to bringing it forward. It got defeated on the second reading. So did you need some direction from council in regards to bringing that forward?
I believe we'll get a new bylaw number
Okay.
and re-advertise.
Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Do we have another bylaw?
No, I don't think so. We don't. If it gets defeated at second reading, it does go to third reading.
No, a different bylaw.
No,
No, it
there
doesn't.
is no different bylaw on that,
No.
Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
Next item on our agenda is adoption of the minutes of the April 15th regular council meeting.
I so move, your worship.
Is there any discussion in regards to adoption of the minutes for April the 15th? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And I'll look for motion to accept the adoption of the minutes of the April 28th special council meeting.
Your worship,
Sorry.
Your worship, I would move that council adopt the April 28th, 2015 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. We have a delegation that will be coming forward, the Safety Codes of Council. Mr. Jerry Barron, would you please come forward, sir?
I think it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Good evening. It's already an eventful evening.
Yeah, I don't know these things. On the other hand, I drove to work this morning in whiteout conditions. So I do appreciate this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we were just wondering if it was orange up there.
So thank you. My understanding, and you just had a brief look at your agenda, and short and sweet to the point, talks a 10-minute rule in respect to building code. Do you want me to explain that, or do you want to have some questions about that concept?
Councilor Sobel.
Your worship, I've been anticipating this for a couple of weeks. I'm excited to see you here, and I would move that we extend this gentleman's 10-minute limit. As far as I'm concerned, it's a very important issue, and I would welcome him going over the 10-minute mark.
Any objection to going over 10 minutes? The floor is yours.
Works for me. I can't do anything in 10 minutes.
We feel that this is. Do we need a motion? Did you make a motion?
I think it has to be a motion.
Okay, so there's a motion to extend the period of time for Mr. Barrett. All in favor? Carried. We feel this is just far too an important issue.
My honor. No, I didn't say. Just to put it in some context, and use just a brief of my background, so you can get where I'm coming from on this. Is 10-minute rule, as we often coin it, is or industry coins it, is and it resides in the building code. My background is kind of come off the farm, but became a plumber and gas fitter by trade. Went on to administrative justice areas, project management, and I am a safety codes officer in 3 disciplines. Building and fire are 2 of them. And I'm now a director of operations at the Safety Codes Council. Teach this kind of stuff as well. My previous career. Some 23 years in the fire discipline myself, volunteer, last 10 of which is DC. So I kind of see both sides of the bigger issue, and had a couple of chats with your staff. You got some good resources here, I might add, but it's about the context, and it needs to be reasonable, and does it make sense? which is probably how I got invited here, is to talk to you guys from that perspective. So straight to the heart of the matter, this issue around a 10-minute rule, and I often point out it's not a 10-minute rule at all. You go to the building code, it's actually under the limiting distance provisions of the building code. And what that part of the building code, the Alberta Building Code, talks about around limiting distances is it's around fire protection as a context. However, how it lays it out in the building code is that limiting distance would be envisioned as the distance between a building wall and a midway point to another building, irrespective of whether there's property lines there or not, based on a mirror image principle. So the identical building. It turns into a more scientific approach, a mathematical calculation, if you will, based on criteria. What's the use and occupancy of a building? What's the nature of its construction? What's the height of the wall, the length of the wall, by how many openings are in it, and by the nature of the construction. When you look at the building code, it's more of a formula that you work out, and it gives you the distance from that wall to the midway point to the next building based on if that were a mirror image, another identical building mirror image, and it's based on expectations around fire protection. So that gives you that limiting distance. Now, what the building code also says is where the fire department takes more than 10 minutes to respond to get there, which is in itself a whole other set of calculations, because when does a call come in, when does it receive, when does the clock start? But the way the code looks at it is when you exceed the 10 minutes, that limiting distance now doubles. So hence there can be angst around this concept of 10-minute. However, I'd like to say, let's back up the bus and look at the nature of the use of the building, its construction. Largely in the province, we tend to have, in housing nature, is 2x4 construction, not 2x6, old school, sorry. But it's not stopping an individual from, say, having steel studs, concrete, or having different mixes and blends. So there's not a particular straight answer to the 10-minute issue, because of all of these other factors that need to come into consideration. So within that changes the, as you put in different construction types and techniques. For example, if you were to put in a standard 2x6 construct, I think my mind is in single-family dwelling, 2x6 wall, and you to put some exterior grade X-rated drywalls, and now you get fireproofing on there on the outside. You've changed the characteristics of the performance of that wall, which is invariably is going to change the distance to that midway point. So as your construction techniques change, so does that distance, because it's a matter of a calculation. So no two buildings may be the same. If you're talking, and I've had builders come in the boom periods of like the 80s and 70s, where they come into my office and they give me one set of drawings. They're building that house across 20 lots. It made it easy for me as a building safety goes off, so I can do one plans review, got it all covered, because that's exactly the building we're going to do in that type of those materials and that construction methodology. So that made it fairly simple. But what I want to point out is that I think for you at the governance level is understanding the rules are there. They're set by the province. So they are there. They have been there for quite a while. But there's all these dynamics that go on in behind the scenes. And that's where the value of your staff, as in your building safety goes officer primarily, because that's, I mean, to send them out here on a pedestal at the moment, but really there's a lot of value there, because that's the individual working through contractors that's going to lay out and look at those drawings. What is that calculation? Now that same building SU is going to work, ought to be working hand in hand with your fire service. What are those response times? But there's also a provincial standata there that explains in detail how to calculate the response times and what that would mean. And so by saying 10 minutes, it's not just 10 minutes 100% of the time, or is that within 10 minutes 90% of the time? And that stand data will explain it and gives them your safety codes officers the guidance in working out that aspect of it. Now, on the other hand, you can build fire halls, or you could do other avenues as well to mitigate. Am I helping to understand that bigger picture concept? It's not it's complex, but achievable. It's just a complex system to get there. Unfortunately, a lot of lay people kind of get hung up on it's 10 minutes, and there's all these other pieces into that puzzle.
Councilor Graycheck?
You had mentioned building another fire hall, but this is all very complex for me anyway. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I need to read our digest version that, all these numbers and figures and everything else is too much to understand in one evening.
That's why you have good people to do it for you.
And pardon me?
That's why you have good people to do it for you.
Yes, I understand that. But you mentioned another fire hall would mitigate some of the issues, or could mitigate, or no?
It changes the formula. It changes the dynamics. So if you were, and keeping it simple, put some 2x6s together to build just a simple wall. If you were to put X-rated drywall, one or both sides, it changes the performance of the wall. That changes the formula. If you were, say, had windows in it, and you standard, say, are the windows opening or closed? Are using glass block, Georgian glass wire, the wavy wire inside the glass? It changes the performance of that window. It changes the performance of the wall. Your calculation, you just do the calculation. It gives you a different end. If what you're looking for, that one piece being that distance, it changes that distance. Now the 10-minute response thing is always at play. That's just one of the contributing factors. But all of a sudden, if it's not as much of a factor, if say you change if I go way out in left field and said we're going to build a concrete wall, absolutely non-combustible. All the buildings in the neighborhood could burn down. That one wall's still going to be standing. So all of a sudden, when you take that philosophical approach to it, you're going to find that 10-minute rule, it doesn't even come into the equation, because your limiting distance at that point is 0 anyways. So you could actually build a wall right next to it. Downtowns are often one building touching the next, the zero lot line kind of. So that's where those principles come from.
So I'm not sure I got my answer. No disrespect, but anyway. So if we have a fire hall in the south end of town, we build, and the population is in the north end of town, we build another fire hall. Is that going to help mitigate the issue? Well, regardless of what we put on for the walls.
And I can't answer that, because it's about the time response to getting to a particular part of town. Nor do I still don't know all the other factors. So you can build as many fire halls as you want. As the community grows, you're kind of never going to get caught up to it, because you always have growth. It's always the type of construction and the use and occupancy of the building that drive what the needs are, or what the expectations of performance are. Sorry, building more fire halls, not
necessarily the answer. No.
Thank you, and thank you very much. And I guess I just want to be very clear on this. The 10-minute fire response time is not a variable number. That 10 minutes doesn't change dependent on what kind of structure the wall is.
No,
that 10 is 10.
10 is 10.
And it's 10 from the call to arrival.
Yeah, there's no metric in that.
And I'm not sure if you have an answer to this question, but on an average home, and I know how difficult this is, but I'm trying to get some concept as to what upgrades would cost a typical builder on a typical residence. Are we talking many thousands of dollars to upgrade to adhere to the law, or is it something that is within reach of a builder?
It's always in reach. And I don't know what normal would be. A normal here I do know that a normal here is going to be different than a normal in the city of Calgary, where they start getting into, pushing the $1 million envelope on housing.
Right.
I don't expect you've got that going on here. It'd be probably nice if you did, but or your builders, if your builders in your community are big on the steel studs, for example.
Mhm.
I had that little blip happen when I was inspecting in the field. I had builders come through, and all of a sudden they're big on steel studs. They're building houses, steel studs. It can be done. It didn't last very long because the economics weren't there. So it depends on what your contractors in your community are doing as normal, kind of that normal construction. Some may just, what are they using for building materials and the performance of those materials. It all comes into that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate how difficult this is. I'm just trying to get some kind of
But
concept.
does it put it out of reach of the homeowner? I think is probably the key,
Okay,
and I would suggest that it does not. Not in today's market.
so the difference in using a sheet of regular drywall versus fire retardant drywall isn't an astronomical cost.
No, it's not going to be an astronomical cost.
Okay.
But you just point it there because you're talking about some fire resistance, but you also, I'm going to suggest it's the next step. It's also exterior grade so that you can put it on the outside. It's going to perform.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be these nuances in cost, whether you want
Sure.
vinyl siding, stucco, brick. It's up to that's where the homeowner comes into the equation and what they want.
And if I could just one more question, and I don't want to get too hung up on cost. It was just a side thing. We're dealing with people's safety, and I really don't think that cost should be a real big factor in this. But that's what I'm hearing is the astronomical cost that this would incur, and we are dealing with people's safety, and that's just a matter of fact. And I think
That's right.
I think that there's things that we have to look at as simple fact. But while we're on that subject, there's been lots of rumor and innuendo and insinuation that there are communities in this province that are basically just ignoring this law because builders do not want to comply with this. So do you have a comment on that, or are you
Well, as
familiar
an
with?
old building SEO, I'd love to comment on that. We used to hear that all the time. You won't allow us to do it in your community, but we could go 30 minutes and everybody else lets us do. Unfortunately, as building SEOs, we do talk to one another. And we're finding, we're all hearing the same story. So no, it's, we don't buy into that. The rules are there. And we all do our best to abide by them, meeting the building code and as we're going forward.
And my very last question. So ignoring this, not that I would ever support that or be any part of that, but ignoring this law, what would you say from your experience is the recourse? And I'm not only talking about penalty, I'm talking about the civil end of things as well.
In my opinion, there's a number of areas that come into play on ignoring it. Starting with the municipality. If you're knowledgeable of it going on, the municipality is accredited. You made a motion of council to be accredited to administer the Safety Codes Act. So if you're knowledgeable of that going on and you're doing nothing about it, the municipality in its own right starts to attract liability. And I'd start there. We also are in an industry where insurance, should an instance happen, and fire speak here, it's not we often point it's not a matter if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when is it going to happen. Fires do happen, unfortunately. We also we're in an era where insurance companies are getting more and more in tune with rules and regulations, and did these things comply? Were permits taken out? Were inspections done? Were there any noted infractions, code infractions? Were they fixed? Were they followed up on? Those start impacting insurance, not just premiums, but actual payouts. So, I hate to find someone, it's the homeowner at the end of the day, bad enough they've lost their house, and then to find out their insurance company is giving them quite a tough time on a payout. It doesn't sit easy. We also have mechanisms in place around enforcement. I'm not big on the enforcement side as in handing out tickets or fines, but rather on education, how to work with the community. And I suggest, as a solution moving forward, and I'm sure your staff have already been doing this, working with the construction community on how do they work, what's the methodology the materials are using, the suppliers are using, what are the options? There are lots, and I had this conversation with some of your staff. There's hundreds of options and different mixes and ways you can do these things. And I just throw out a couple, like the drywall scenario, or the glass block, for windows, or changing the size or the surface area of the window. Whether you have juts out of the wall or you don't. There's all these. They're minor factors that come into it. In it with a wonderful community, little tweaks on it actually change the calculation, so it mitigates the impact.
Councilor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate you coming, and I appreciate your comments about relevant to our staff. I certainly echo that. And one of the questions that I would have is, who is in the best position to figure out that 10-minute response, to calculate and map the time trials and the traffic modeling that we would need? Who in our community, in your estimation, are the best people to undertake that?
Your own staff.
Thank you.
Without a doubt. It's your building safety codes officer and your fire safety codes officers. They work hand in hand. If they're not, I'd love to take them in the back room and kind of help them.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? That's that communication. It's about being reasonable. I've a lot of experience on working those.
I appreciate it.
Councilor Picture.
And going forward, looking back, if that makes any sense, what about the houses that were already built? And there's some pretty nice ones that I know that the fire truck couldn't get there in 10 minutes, and that's a concern of mine. Looking for from a safety perspective, is what should be done there.
Well, and you hit on a really good and excellent point. What is well within 10 minutes today, 3 months from now, could be well outside. Driving road construction. Somebody putting in a school, and all of a sudden now you go from an 80-kilometer-hour zone to a 30. It all impacts the travel time. So things, a community needs to grow and flourish. These things change. Looking in hindsight, the way to look at it is those things that were built met with the code of the day. Somebody that was the authority, as a competent individual, looked at those, did an assessment, signed off on them. It's water under the bridge, let it go. They do get caught up later on when you do renovations. It's a great cycle of the building life, as I coin it. You start out with designing, building, it's all the building code. And once it's occupied, there's a change of guard into fire. Fire looks after it through the maintenance side and fire code. When that building gets back to being renovated, guess what? It's right back to the building. So that renovation meets with the code of the day. I know that all too well. We live in a 100-year-old house. So as I'm working on it, I'm going, damn, get caught up in my own rules here. But, we do what we can. And again, while meeting with the new code of the day renovations, it's about being reasonable. We're not telling people to tear down their houses to meet with the code of the day. It's about being reasonable and meeting those aspects of the code that reasonably can be met. It's making things better rather than ignoring them.
Councilor Peterson.
It's okay.
That's okay. Councilor Field.
Just a comment, I guess, on part of your question. It ties into things that have been said already. If you're saying, I took notes all through your talk too, so I really appreciate the information. If the second fire hall is not necessarily an answer, and it's not an astronomical cost, and we all have to follow these rules in this law, and you mentioned that ignoring it could be a possible liability situation as insurance problem, and then the question was, who's the best to measure it? Is our own staff and our own safety codes officer. Then he's bound by whatever the laws of the province are and the safety codes go, is he not? Or whoever the person is on our staff.
We all are.
Yeah.
Including the Crown, meaning the province, the very people that made the law, they too are bound by it. So that, but at the same time, we're talking about people,
Mhm.
okay? And people are making judgment calls and they're making interpretations. They're doing the best they can, given those circumstances and context of the information they have before them. That's what they're making their decisions based on. Are they always going to be correct? No, but they are doing the best. You have the best people there. Hence, we have an extensive certification program. We certify them, we designate them, which is part of all that training. But, so you get the idea of how that works.
No, and I appreciate you coming down. You've answered a lot of my questions and you've cleared up a lot of confusion, I think, that many of us have had about how to deal with this issue and what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And so I really appreciate this.
You know, just to add to that, well, I'm saying, you know, I put your SEOs on a pretty high pedestal there, which is where I often put them. It's also a long ways to fall for them. They are not left alone either. Okay, so our office, Municipal Affairs Office, will provide. We're there as peer support. If they have questions, we're not going to do their job for them, but if they have questions about, you know, they're dealing with a particular situation, circumstance, what's another take, or have they missed anything? It's a phone call away.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Volkman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Jerry, I'd like to thank you for coming out here tonight. We've been struggling with this for quite some time, and myself, I'm getting a lot of information here tonight that's certainly starting to straighten things out. I like your comment where possibly one or more multiple fire halls is not really the answer. One of the best things we got going in Strathmore is our volunteer fire department. And kudos to them. We've got a great fire service in this town. And I stress the word volunteer because I firmly believe we can have 2-3 fire halls in town, but as long as we're strictly volunteer to get to those 10-minute response times, that's going to be pretty difficult.
Full-time versus career, full-time paid. You can also run. They're going to run into the
Yeah,
same
that was my next question.
Yes, and obviously, an ex-retired volunteer. When you build that fire hall, I'm sure they are owed a ladder truck too. Okay. Plant that seed now.
Wow.
Thank you.
Councilor Peterson?
I'm sure you've seen many communities in the same situation that this one is in over the years, and we're about to move forward, and we do recommend that we move forward in a methodology that focused on compliance management or something somewhat more, I don't necessarily want to say cooperative but I guess more cohesive in order, or just work from a compliance management perspective.
Your builders are I don't know them, but I know builders because I'm a tradesman. They're out there trying to do the best they can for your community as well. You're not looking for shortcuts, and I mean it's about money and there's economics in play, obviously, but all of the players are working together in the same direction. I'm very sure about that.
When I in preparation for you coming tonight, I was looking at other communities that were facing issues such as ours, particularly Canmore and Dead Man's Flats and Chestermere, and communities that are experiencing growth beyond ours, and they're struggling with the same questions about whether to move forward in terms of a collaborative movement or a compliance issue, and I didn't find any answers when I was looking at their information.
That's why you get to sit up there.
Yeah.
And most I ever ask for is that you're making informed decisions.
Yeah.
That's why I come down.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Behrens, we certainly appreciate your help and your direction and as we go forward, and really appreciate you talking with our staff and sharing your expertise with it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is EPCOR. So, do we have a representative for EPCOR?
Off you go.
Your worship, we'll take a 5-minute recess
Okay.
while this gentleman gets set up.
Okay, while we're getting set up, we're just gonna take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Yes, yes. It's just so you know, that's all.
But that helped me in one thing, and that was a question No. Jennifer has a car. Turn it on.
Did it stop?
Hi there. Good, how are you? I bring gifts tonight.
Hello?
Okay, good.
You catch him outside. Oh, they come out.
Absolutely.
Your question about the fire halls. My question is going to be, all other things being, all the houses being, not certain, all those things being the same, does in fact having a second fire hall make a difference in other people, other senses, less of a because as the city expands, I have to have services that reflect the expansion of the community and the fact that the money that works today has to be expanded.
If that statement weren't true, city of Calgary would only have one fire.
You can give us
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, because I just. Yes. Well, you know what I do?
I'll kind of see the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
that's cool. I know seeing that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Side off, right? This would be a nice stuff.
Are these baby frisbees?
Yeah, well, you can use it for that too, like.
Is it Justin? Justin? Yeah. I gotta think, I really can't for names. I have so many people around.
Forever?
I was in Portland, especially.
You know what these are?
Well, we needed them.
You got one I need.
Public safety, yes, public safety codes. He's the big guy. He's. Oh. Yeah, that was good.
Good, you?
Everybody like?
Golf yet? You golf?
I thought it was something I did. I don't know.
Too busy.
Well, you lost balls.
I know. I'm waiting for him to take me out.
Yeah, that's the cleanest way. That's what I was asking before. Wasn't sure how to get by it, but that's the best way is just defeat it.
You went, what was that?
Well, you know what, we've got some interesting things we've got going.
I got 6 rounds in down there.
Chenille.
I was only
we got
gone
some
for a couple of
baby
weeks instead of a month.
Oh, cool.
That was a lot of hockey.
30, 31.
The Epcor gentleman has the frisbees. for
Just right.
the,
To me, that's where I like
Did
it.
Epcor get a?
First time golfing those courses you did.
Did they disc golf?
Well, I golf since first.
Oh, I don't know. No, no.
Stay in Vegas there for a couple weeks. Or?
Oh,
Where is that?
2 days.
Do
I'm
tell.
tired of Vegas, actually. I might even skip it altogether.
Really?
We're building one. And
Fly there
Epcor
and
made
drive
one.
out kind of thing.
I drive down and drive back.
Oh, you drive from here? Oh, do you? Okay. How long does that take you?
Okay.
I don't drive 20 hours a day, so it takes me 3.5 days to get there.
Do you have a card or something that can, or even, yeah, for sure.
Just,
No, that
stop
would be
me in
good.
Dillon, Montana on the south end.
Oh, way down there, yeah.
The driving time from here to Vegas is 18 and a half hours.
Your card as well.
Some days even a day and a half.
I need to start making cards. Yes.
You golf on the way down, or?
Well, there's places you can golf, but you gotta get past Salt Lake City.
That's nice. I've been there. It's nice down there.
It's a little too cold, temperature's a little too cool on this side.
I know, no.
Unique setting in Salt Lake Mountains in the background. You got the desert.
Yeah.
Freeway goes through, that takes an hour and 20 minutes to get through.
The I came out with the
Really? Oh, okay.
Freeway?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just came over to Vegas. Right?
As soon as you get south of Vulcan here, you're 4 lanes all the way to Vegas.
Yeah, as soon as you get.
I'm gonna call me back over.
I've got extras here too if you want. You need them. I don't have quite 1 million, but I'm close.
Oh, we should go. You just walk off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. We just cross the street.
Yeah. Come get a coffee.
Call the meeting back to order. Well, don't know my own strength. Our next is delegation from Epcor, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Worship and members of council, and I really appreciate this opportunity to come speak to you tonight. Kind of have an upbeat presentation to kind of go through. Just a bit of a background with myself. I've been with Epcor for about 10 years. So within Epcor, we've kind of got an engineering faction and an operations kind of division. So I've kind of grown up through the operations side of things. Started out back in the day as an entry-level operator working in a wastewater treatment plant, and have kind of climbed up over the years to the point where I'm able to talk to you tonight. So, yeah, my name is Davey Robertson, and I'm currently the site manager for the water and wastewater operations within Strathmore. And I've been here for approximately 1 year now. So tonight, what I'd like to put in front of council is some of the community education programs and initiatives that Epcor is looking at unveiling to the community. So the overarching goal here is, from Epcor's perspective, is we ultimately want to build meaningful relationships with our customers through water and wastewater education and engagement programs. And what I'll do further down in the presentation is speak a little more specifically to some of those programs and initiatives for the remainder of 2015. So drilling into these goals, ultimately we want to be the local expert on water and wastewater issues within your community. At the end of the day, we want our homeowners and residents to feel comfortable to when they have concerns and questions relating to water and wastewater within the community, that they can reach out and talk to us about that. So, and to continue on with that, we essentially want to provide back to our residents water education and kind of some of the communications around that, and ultimately engage with community members about the meaningful conversations around water. So what are some of the specific programs we'll be unveiling this year within Strathmore? A bit of an overview of some of those programs. We have what's called Tin It Then Bin It campaign, which is some of the items I've dropped off in front of you tonight. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is it's more of a focus and education program around fats, oils, and grease, and the generation of these substances within the home itself, and to really divert attention away from just dumping it down the sink or down the toilet, and to store and ultimately dispose of these components properly within the home. Think before you flush. Fairly self-explanatory. This would be more of an advertising type campaign. Education around things we should and should not be flushing down the toilet. And I'll speak more to that in a further slide. Leaky loo. Again, more education around water conservation tips and techniques within the home itself to ultimately drill down and to drive down water consumption. And then these last two are kind of a work in progress. And what these are geared towards is frozen pipes, sewer backup. So when we, as residents, experience these interruptions, unlikely as they may be, this would be more of a communication and kind of a simple step-by-step process for the resident that they can follow in terms of how to deal with those as a homeowner. Ultimately, what to do and who to call, which basically falls back to EPCOR. So Tin It Then Bin It. So this is the communication that we'll be unveiling at both the Strathmore Stampede and at the Strathmore Fire Department pancake breakfast during the Canada Day. We'll have a booth set up, and we'll be providing these communications and these nice blue lids to our residents. And basically, again, it's that communication and education around fats, oils, and grease, and kind of what to do with those substances within our homes, and ultimately how they're disposed of. So the communication on the back of the card just kind of gives a brief, kind of two-step process in terms of what to do and how to store these fats and greases. And again, this blue lid is got kind of 3 available options for different sizing of tin cans or what have you in terms of how you contain these things. And ultimately, the lid's there to adapt to different sizes of tin cans and to kind of contain odors as we store these components under a sink or what have you. So, and final slide here, just kind of brief overview of some of the remaining advertisements and kind of communication campaigns that we'll be going through. Are you draining the environment? So more education around how to protect pipes and ultimately our ecosystems. H2O on hiatus. So again, this focuses on the unlikely event of outages, and we do have on occasion water outages within our communities, and this helps prepare the resident and to educate the resident on some techniques to kind of help prepare them for those unlikely occurrences. No more leaky loo. So this focuses on the leaky loo campaign that we'll be looking at. So again, it's really to focus on water conservation within the home itself, some tips, techniques that the resident can follow through on. And TLC for your H2O, so why we treat your water. And ultimately, it's the amount of horsepower that's involved in making sure every drop of water that comes from our station to the tap has gone through a rigorous quality assurance and quality control kind of scenario there. And it just kind of brings front of mind just the importance of that and kind of a little bit of education around that. So yeah, it's pretty brief. Again, just wanted to get in front of council tonight, just to make council aware that these are some of the initiatives that FCOR is working towards. And we'll be out and about in the community and unveiling these type things in the next few months or so.
Fantastic.
Thank
So,
you.
any questions at this time?
Questions? Deputy Mayor Blockland?
Thank you, Your Worship. I started looking at this and I kind of had a little laugh, but I thought they were meant for when you open a can of cat food.
Well, you can use it for that too, I
they
think.
probably work for that too.
I think it's a multi-use approach for these things. Yeah, for sure.
My
Council-
kids like that.
Councillor Peterson?
Will you have a presence at the 55+ games?
Yes. So the sponsorship application has been put in, and I know our folks are working on that currently. So yeah, we definitely will be there.
Really appreciate, great presentation.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight.
Councillor Sobel?
Just a comment and further to the 55, the plus 55 games.
Sure.
There's also a trade show, and if you want, if you have a card, I can send you a little bit more information. But
Sure.
our trade show is focused on health and wellness and involves sustainability issues. So I don't know if you want to have a presence there, but I can certainly send you some information if you leave me a
Can I leave you a card? and-
contact email or whatever.
For sure. No, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Graytrunk? No?
I
No?
just wanted to make sure she knew that. I was-
Yeah, okay.
She's looking for a sponsor for the.
Mr.
Yeah.
Robertson, we appreciate you bringing this presentation forward and giving us the information in regards to how we can keep our, without spending a whole bunch of money. Yeah.
Thank you.
As a former operator, in my former life, I can tell you grease is like kryptonite for an operator in the system for sure.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
My fellow counselor short one, I'm really upset.
uh-oh.
I was getting a glass of water,
I was getting a
which you'd be happy with for doing. From the tap, too.
Perfect.
Nothing further? Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
I'll leave these. You guys want action as well? Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I think we do. And our next item on our agenda is the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective to make a presentation. Why?
Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for hearing our request. I'm Brandy from Strathmore Regional Arts Collective, and with me is Wanda. I'm the chair and she's the vice chair. A couple of weeks ago, Dave Rhymes, park supervisor for town of Strathmore, came to Strac with concerns regarding dealing with graffiti, specifically the graffiti on the backside of the dugouts at the Ball Diamonds on the south end of Kinsman Park. Since art was thought to be a solution, Strac was more than happy to help out. Originally, we had thought of a two-pronged approach involving putting up art in the graffiti problem areas and also putting up graffiti walls where kids would be welcome to paint. As an artist, this seemed like a great idea to me. However, since submitting that request to the town council, we have been able to meet with Constable Shannon White from the Crime Reduction Unit of the RCMP here in town. She did some very thorough research, which she brought to the meeting, on the success of graffiti walls in many other cities in North America. The walls are, by most accounts, a resounding failure. Incidentally, the Strathmore RCMP would very much like to not see a graffiti wall in town for very valid reasons, which were outlined for us in the meeting with Constable White just last night, actually. However, in this meeting, we did discuss a new approach, that of developing programs for cleaning up existing graffiti and continuing to clean up graffiti as it occurs in an effort to curb more graffiti. SRAC is pretty excited to spearhead these initiatives, and we still think that installing art in the graffiti areas is still a very valid idea. Previously, it was thought we could encourage these vandals not to destroy property that was not theirs. However, the chances of this appear to be fairly slim. So the new scope of the request has the underlying theme of targeting younger kids and attempting to influence their mindset about graffiti versus the pride and ownership of something good. Subsequently, the original request to town council has been drastically revised as follows. Our graffiti deterrence plan is now a two-pronged approach. One, in some of the problem areas, put up real art and rely on the notion of respect for art to help deter this graffiti. Inherent to this would be selection of art pieces that are more difficult to vandalize. A major focus of these art projects would be to find ways to target young people and include and welcome them in the creation of this art, and thus give the upcoming young kids an opportunity to feel the pride and ownership of being part of something constructive rather than destructive from a young age. Part two, this would be to launch programs to clean up unwanted graffiti in our town. This too can incorporate kids and teens of all ages, as well as adults and groups like ourselves, STRAC. Additionally, STRAC and supporting partners would work to offer classes such as airbrushing, which is a technical form of spray can painting, skateboard painting workshops, and illustration magna-type art classes, not the good old-fashioned paint a landscape painting, but things that the kids would think were cool. Again, we'd work to target the young and hopefully influence their mindset early on before they feel the need to turn to vandalism to belong to something. To launch these initiatives, it is in keeping with the timing of work being done to develop public art policy in our community. The reason it's so important right now is there currently grant money available through co-op community spaces for projects of this nature. The grant application is being completed by STRAC board and is due on May 15th. So time is of the essence for the approval of this concept by town, and funding is in the range of $25,000 to $100,000 per project. At this point, STRAC is presenting this proposal to town council for consideration. In the short term, we are only hoping that town council will approve the concept in principle and supply STRAC with a letter to that effect, so that we may submit this letter of support with our application for the grant monies. At a later date, STRAC would propose a motion to town council for consideration that we be permitted to put outdoor art in problem graffiti sites, with the art projects to be approved on a case-by-case basis in accordance with specific proposals. That would come at a later date when we could do more research. I actually have the revised one here since I couldn't get it in.
Thanks, Brandy. Thank you.
Did you have anything further you wanted to add?
No, that's kind of my spiel. Wanda and I'd be glad to take questions if.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Peterson.
I'm just prepared to make a motion, Your Worship, and then we can discuss it.
Okay, please make a motion.
So I would move that the town provide the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective with a letter of support in principle in order for them to be able to apply in a timely manner to the co-op grant, co-op community-based grant.
Did you want to speak to the motion right away, or?
I was lucky to be present at the meeting with Dave Rhymes when he first talked about the problems of graffiti, and heard later about the issues that the RCP articulated. So it's been a great journey to learn to understand about how negative graffiti art impacts our community and how positive art impacted in the same way. And there's a lot of compelling research that talks about how, in exactly the way Brandy has presented here, how when young children participate in community-based art projects that show the good of their work, that there is much less chance of them vandalizing community-based works of any kind into the future. And I like the idea very much of a multifaceted approach to art, the magnetic signs, the art with a difference that you talk about, tiles, ceramic tiles. I've just been asked actually by the youth group to do ceramic tiles inside their building. There's no reason why they can't be done outside. So I think there's tremendous potential to bring many artists from our community to work with young people and also utilize our schools as well in the same area. I think it's a great plan. I think it has tremendous benefit to the community, and I think it'll fit well within a future proposed policy for the town.
Thank you. And if I may, we're thinking too, because lots of the kids, there maybe isn't enough money for some of the high cost sports and stuff now. We work towards making extremely affordable so these kids can have somewhere to go and belong to something if they can't afford sports and some of the more expensive groups that they can be in.
And just to speak to that, Brandy, it's so true because that's exactly what Strathmore Youth Club is doing. They're providing affordable art opportunities for kids in the community. And it takes tremendous effort on the part of the community, but they're doing it really effectively.
Councilor Rachel?
Thank you. I want to thank the Regional Arts for having such enthusiastic concern for our community. I really commend you for that. That's just fantastic. And what you're trying to do here, I'm certainly in favor of it. I'm concerned about, as soon as you put something up, it seems to me in this community, I wouldn't say young generation, who knows what age they're, seem to want to destroy it. And what protection, what can we have to make sure that it's not damaged in some form or another, or again, painting the art again?
I don't think you're going to avoid all the damage. You're still going to probably take some. I would hope we could reduce it. And Wanda's been researching some different ideas that are a little tougher to deface. For example, there's one that's actually empty paint cans with, of course, the paint residue dried on the inside, and they're adhered to the wall. The butt of the can adhered to the wall, with the front part showing out with the color in. And so you get all these cans and you gather them up and you put them in a design that turns into something. But I mean, all it is ultimately is cans on end on a wall. You can come and spray paint it, but you're not going to have that much effect. So it won't be very gratifying when you're there trying to. And so things like this is what we'd research and look at, and hopefully. And then, of course, you know, as part and parcel with the programs to clean up graffiti and stuff, that would be part of it. The kids that help create it could take some ownership by also being the groups that come back and clean it up when other kids come and.
I'm certainly behind you, I'm supporting you 100%, but it's so disheartening to see you go through all this work and then, somebody thinks that it's not right.
I agree. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
speak to that,
Something.
Brandy?
Yes, sir.
Like last night when we met with Shannon, she was very helpful in helping us understand that the individuals who deface art don't think like you and I do about building community, right? They're out there, they're motivated by something else, right? They're going to violate things no matter what we do, right? But what we can do is we can do art to respond in a positive way to graffiti. In other words, we can be creating opportunities, events, things that their peers are going to be coming to, that are going to have a positive influence, and maybe eventually we can have a positive influence on them. There's nothing that we can do to deter this from not happening, unfortunately. And I think it's actually unfair for us to not respond in a positive way. Like right now, if you go downtown, there's a lot of graffiti down there, right? And I don't see a lot of art downtown, outside, right? We want to change that. We want the community to be presenting something positive. And if we are doing that, I think we can deter the negative more so, because we're going to respond in a positive way. So I understand your concern, and I don't think we're going to see it change overnight. But I think that as artists, as community members, we can be responding in a positive way.
Thank you.
Well, if we can get to being part of changing the mindset of the younger kids coming up. I mean, if we have the hardcore vandals and defacers out there, you're not going to change them. But if you can change the mindset coming up, maybe in 3 or 5 years when these kids are getting to be teens and stuff, they might have some influence on their peers and other kids. But it just feels like we got to start somewhere and do something. So we try to come up with something that makes sense, and it might change as you go along and turn in as certain ideas or projects will fail. You move away from those. Also, Constable White had given us she gave us a stack of research actually, and some of it was also on making spaces less prone to graffiti. Like maybe you have your murals up high and down in the front there's prickly bushes or whatever, rose bushes, or so they can't, like just little simple things like that. And she had a fairly lengthy list about things we could do, which we just got those this morning, that research that she'd pulled out. So we haven't had time to look at it in detail, but with time to pick that apart and examine different things, I'm sure we can come up with some different ideas.
This is a point of interest. I got some leftover razor wire from my security shop.
That might be a little extreme.
Councillor Peterson. Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Just,
Sobel.
thank you for the comment. I guess I'm really impressed with the fact that you guys would even take this project on, because this is a really serious project. This is not an easy thing to do. I know how, believe me, I know how frustrating graffiti is and how expensive it is. But it's the frustration. I think that's the worst part. It's the lack of respect for your community, et cetera, et cetera. So for you guys to take this on, I'm just so impressed that we have you guys as a partner, as a community partner, and of course I would gladly support this. But having said that, just getting back to my first comment in regards to your committee, I know there are only a few of you. You are very small in numbers, which makes it more impressive that you guys would take this on. So I guess I just want to publicly tell people out there in radio land and computer land that if they want a great organization to join and get involved with actually doing some real serious items of benefit to our town, then give SRAC a call. You guys have a Facebook or a
Website.
Facebook page and a website page, so look you up and join you. I know you could use some more bodies. So thank you for everything you do.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you. There's a website called Innovate Change and .co New Zealand or NZ, and they have done remarkable work in graffiti vandalism prevention programs. And one of the things that we've used when I worked in a community south of Strathmore, we did lots of work in community in terms of traditional art and putting it out in the community. And they talk a lot about mindset that you want to have spoken about today, how useful it is to build in a vandalism component into your art. And that vandalism component is your willingness to put it back together if you can, and your willingness to let it go if you can't, and to replace it if you must. And so that kind of mindset that goes forward is just this: we can overcome the deficits that are in our community, and we'll work hard to build a cohesive community in order to move forward. It's worked extremely well for them, and when we used that model, it worked very well for us. And so we had setting big, expensive teepees in the open for people to browse through and leaving them up overnight, and having over several years very minimal vandalism. And we used that philosophy, that process. And when sewing needed to happen and repairs needed to happen, there was never a question about who was going to do it. Another case.
Yeah.
So I think your plan is really wonderful and admirable. I appreciate being a part of it.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to issue a letter of support to Strathmore Regional Arts Collective. No further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for all your work.
You guys
Exciting.
have been such a great support to us. We're so
Great
lucky
idea.
to have you. Awesome.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah. The two of them work really hard.
Next item on our, yes, go ahead.
Could we hear from John Godsman? It got missed on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Any objections? No?
Got 30 seconds.
Mr. Godsman, would you like to come forward and give us your presentation?
Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
members of council, a few months ago, I approached council and asked them if they'd be interested in sponsoring me for volume 2 of my book, Remembering Our Roots, and you very kindly sponsored me to the tune of $500. It gives me great pleasure tonight to give you a copy, a complimentary copy of volume 2. I'd just like to explain something here to you. Volume 1 all the photographs of the subjects were in black and white. So the unit cost per book was $12.35. I decided to go to color for the subjects. The unit cost is now $21.66. Quite an extent change. Actually, it's about just over $900. I have raised the cost of my book from $40 per copy to $45 per copy. It's a great pleasure to thank you.
Did you want to do a picture for the paper of him presenting this to the town? Yeah? Okay. Well, come on and do that. And if council wants that,
Yeah,
just
when
talk
you
about
get-
it.
when you get-
Get you over there.
That's wonderful. Photobomb.
And all you're gonna do is giving me the. I'll take a couple here. Awesome. Good. Thank you. Appreciate it, John.
Thank you, John.
And
Is
I'll be
this-
back-
is
and I'll
this
be
an
back-
You're not in it, are you?
And I'll be back in 2017 for volume 3, and then I'm going to retire.
Oh.
I will not have seniors by then.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it.
Great service to everybody.
Thank you.
And that is an autographed copy. New business, and when I was looking at the new business, I said 9.1. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Sorry. John, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
When I said the item that Councillor Peterson wanted to bring forward, I said 9.1. It should be 9.2 because there is a 9.1. So. We have a motion on the floor to approve the donation for the Brother Memorial Junior High School. The donation for their spaghetti. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carried. And 9.2, Council remuneration. Councilor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like Grace of this house to make a motion that council direct administration to place all council remuneration and expenses on the town of Strathmore website for public viewing. And
Please.
that this would entail placing the month-by-month expenses of mayor and council on our website, and if any person has questions pertinent to the expenses, said concerns will be directed to Deputy CAO Linda Nelson for further information or clarification.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is committee and department reports. May I start with you, Councilor Sobel?
You certainly can, Your Worship. In regards to the Strathmore, Alberta 55-plus summer games, directors' meeting was held on April 27th. The focus of this meeting was to have directors discuss in detail how their particular area of responsibility was going to affect and interact with other parts of the game, of the games, I guess. This was a very useful exercise and provided an excellent overall look at how these games are designed to run. The directors that I am dealing with continue to be a very dedicated and professional group of people who are clearly interested in making this the best games ever. And just a reminder that there are now 81 days left to the Alberta 55-plus summer games. In Strathmore Wheatland Addictions team, there was no general meeting in April, nor was there one for the Calgary Regional Partnership Transportation Committee. In the Downtown Revitalization Committee, we met on April 21st and discussed on how further to proceed with the concept of changing the angle parking on 2nd Avenue to parallel parking. It was decided that an open house should be hosted by committee members to discuss this issue as well as other potential downtown plans with the public. The open house will be held in the Chuck Mercer Room located in the Civic Center building from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 16th. And advertising for this event will take place during the next month. And lastly, there was no April Policy Review Committee meeting. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Volkel?
Thank you, Your Worship. There was no scheduled meeting for Wadumza. At least I don't think there was
No,
there?
they rescheduled.
Chamber of Commerce meeting I attended on April 20th. I missed the one on May 4th. They're meeting every 2 weeks now, so they discussed the upcoming lease at their present location. The upcoming Todd Hirsch presentation. He's an economic advisor for Alberta Treasury Branch.
Yes.
Yeah. There's going to be a presentation here in town first part of June. The Chamber Board is also looking at setting up or discussing possibilities of setting up a district tourism office. And we have 51 members to date. Handy bus meeting, I had the report on my phone and I can't find it. But the association is running smoothly, both financially and operational. That's all I got.
Thank you, Your Worship. In regards to, we had a meeting with Midland Housing, want to inform everybody that we have finally getting all the windows installed in the lodge on the exterior, and that's going to save a lot of heat and the air conditioning bills. We had accommodations inspection with Alberta Seniors Municipal Affairs, concluded that in a 2-year license, and we had a 100% operating score. We hired a third maintenance employee. Alberta Seniors / Municipal Affairs sending team of specialists set up a social housing office, new site out of the county, and that's been completed by now. Municipal Affairs awarding $986,000 for the lodge for fire sprinklers, and that's we have heard of that just recently. And I just want to confirm with administration that we do it, making sure that we have enough water pressure, because this is critical. That the sprinklers can work without the white water pressure. And I think we do have that confirmation, do we here?
Yes, we do.
Alberta Seniors Municipal Affairs awards tender bids for Sunset Haven shingling re-roofing. And I have a copy of the equalization assessments sent out. I don't know if administration got one, but I have a copy for all the equal assessments throughout the county, including us. If you want to keep a copy of it. It's broken down to each area, and I can give council a copy with that. And I want to thank the mayor for attending my meeting that I couldn't attend on the recreation board, and you're going to come on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Peel?
Thank you, Your Worship. We had no say meeting during spring break due to the school being closed. The youth club board, we had a meet and greet youth club meeting on April 28th. It was a supper meeting where we got to meet some of the new members who are coming onto our board. Yesterday we had a fundraising committee meeting, and the club had an indoor garage sale a couple of weeks back and made approximately $500. We are still hosting Friday Night Laughs 3 on June 5th. Ticket sales have been slow, but we're hoping that Strathmore will come through. Again, all proceeds are going towards us being able to buy transportation. A shuttle bus is what we've got our site set on. You can get tickets at the youth center, the FCSS office, or from Debbie and me. And as far as the board meeting following that last night, we struck new subcommittees. Well, we have regular subcommittees. We added new members and discussed in general the roles and responsibilities of our new members. It was more of an informational meeting for the people who've just joined our board. And I had to miss yesterday's downtown revitalization meeting due to the youth club. And that's it, Your Worship.
No, there's no more.
Oh, one more. Oh, yes, that's
We just got
that's for apples.
Huh?
That's right.
for the pottery program.
Pardon me.
I just got it today.
For adults, right?
For adults?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Actually, this leads me to a good thing anyway. I wanted to thank Councillor Peterson. Well, I don't want to thank you anyway. I wanted to thank Councillor Peterson because she's become involved in the youth club, and she's actually running and teaching a pottery class to the youngsters in our program. So that's been really good, and she's just informed me by this note that we've been approved to run a pottery class for adults, and all proceeds of the fees to take this pottery class, and you'll be running that as well?
This time, yeah.
Councillor Peterson will be running an adult pottery class, and all the proceeds will be going to the youth center. So once again, thank you, Councillor Peterson.
And we have other artists now, and they're kind of all connected to Strack that are hoping to do the same thing and run adult programs in the community and then donate the proceeds. And the people who partake in the classes can get tax receipts as well for their donation to them. So it works for everybody.
Councillor Fuel, may I ask you about the pottery class? Where will it be held and how much will Councillor Peterson be charging?
Well, I don't know the information to that, as she just gave me that little note.
I think they're going to start in 2 weeks' time and held Sunday evening. I think it's cold already, and I believe that the cost is a $20, $30 supplies cost, and the remaining $150 goes to these.
And Councillor Peterson, your report, please.
So, as Councillor Blocker mentioned, what EBSA has set their meeting for early next month, and you heard from Strack tonight. I have nothing more to report than what those good people offered you. And Marigold only had their annual general meeting, and that was last month, and I already reported on it. So that leaves only the Strathmore Municipal Library. And Rachel Hughes, our municipal director, is implementing a regularly scheduled evaluation of all library programs. It's a big undertaking, but she's well up to the task, and we hope that it's going to give us excellent information. She's also planning with the Strathmore FCSS an International Day of Families event, and this event will involve a geocache treasure hunt at Kinsman Park. They're very excited about it. I think it's going to be a great boon to the community, and it speaks to the tremendous collaboration that continues to occur with our FCSS and different agencies in the community, but particularly the Municipal Library and the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective. The library will also host the Alberta Book Display. This was sponsored by several groups, including Marigold Library, and it will be here June 1st to June 30th at our local library, and it's going to be really, I think, extensive, and this is a collection of extremely well-chosen, top-of-the-line, best-selling authors and items of interest. It should be very much worth looking to. The Municipal Library has applied for 3 grants, or actually 3 major grants and some smaller ones. The Canada Post Community Foundation grant for children, funding for Alberta Classrooms on Wheels, the bus, I think formerly known as the Cow Bus, and I didn't drive it, Councillor Field, and the Tailblazer Author Visit Program, and funding for Books for Babies. And so, again, this is Rachel Dick Hughes and her team really enhancing the existing services in the library by always spending an inordinate amount of time looking for additional sources of funding to enhance our services. And our director, in consultation with seniors in our community, is looking at expanding the library borrowing program that currently exists at Wheatland Lodge, and they want to expand this to Sagewood, and they are open to having other venues where seniors are predominant populations to bring those books to them as well. So they bring in a small library, pick it up and take it back, and it's been well received at Wheatland Lodge, and so they're going to expand that. They're also part of the Newsy Neighbours Downtown Festival in June, the 55 Summer Games in July, and the Heritage Days in August. And I have one question to administration that I could do now. It's related to the library. And they just have asked again for a copy, and I know you're on it, Linda, the current emergency response document, so they can include it in their annual report. And I know you almost got that done, but they asked me to ask you for that. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. The reports, Community Futures Wild Rose didn't hold a meeting in April. The Financial Audit Committee met, the committee met prior to the council meeting on April 15, 2015. Financial statements were presented by the auditors. There were no outstanding issues brought forward by the auditors. The committee accepted the statements and brought them forward to council for approval. And the committee agreed to continue to review best practices and to meet again. I attended the Recreation Board on behalf of Councilor Graychak. The meeting was held on April 14th. Again, in the minutes of the previous meeting were approved, and the board advised a needs assessment with Wheatland County involved is being completed by RC Strategies. RC Strategies will have available historical needs assessment information. Bylaws and society status are still ongoing and are expected to be finalized at the next board meeting, which is scheduled for the third week of May. A draft of the proposed bylaws will be sent for review prior to the next board meeting. And those are my reports. And Dr. Stanford.
Okay, on economic development.
Anyway, the bill permits are looking pretty good compared to last year. For example, last year at this time, 4.6 million, and now 8.7 million. So it's way up. It's interesting, the majority of homes in town being built by far are two-story. There's very few, matter of fact, only 2 bungalows this year, and the rest are two-story. And the majority was housing, very little industrial, with some commercial. And on the single family homes, the majority are being built by a couple of builders. Most of the others are either one or not. And there's a couple of them that are quite a few homes. And that's it. Single family, 22 as of middle of April. There was 3 new boxes. One split one. Now that's funny, a few years ago, bi-levels were the big thing. You went to Strathmore, I don't know what percent, but there's dozens and dozens of those. And nowadays, it's being all two-story.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the reports. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. If there's nothing else on our agenda, I'll take a motion to go in camera.
So moved.
We have a motion to go in camera. All in favor? And carried. And thank you.